Summer might not be here for all of us, but it is for the Lions.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you. It is another installment of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It is a Tuesday, June 10th and a Wednesday, June 11th. Thanks for making us your first listen, everybody. Checking us out wherever you get your podcast. Thank you to our everydayers that are out there that watch and listen to the podcast. Maybe you're on our YouTube channel, which we appreciate. Maybe you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Hey, thank you to guys like Jeff Buckner, Todd Sherman, Jeremiah May, who hit me up on LinkedIn. Appreciate all of you checking us out. Again, wherever you get your podcasts. It's summertime. The Lions are gone for the summer. They are coming back for training camp. Dates to be announced shortly. But of course, they're going to be back, at it likely in a couple of weeks here, or I would say probably about a month here, and opening up camp early because the team, in fact, does have to go to Canton, Ohio, and play in the Hall of Fame game. So be that as it may, as my old buddy, the mayor, Dave Zippor, used to say, Lions getting some time off now. So we'll get into a little summer break talk. Dan Campbell spoke at the end of last week after OTAs were completed in regards to some players that have stepped up and look very good. I want to mention a few of those guys, including on the offense. What's going on at linebacker? Gaines Media poster boy Alex Anzalone remains AWOL, working out on his own. Will he show up for training camp? And also we have a Malcolm Rodriguez update we got to get to. Plus, a lot of emotion right now in regards to the Frank Ragnow retirement. All of that coming up on today's Locked On Lions. Andrew Siciliano joined us yesterday. If you missed the show, the Siciliano Show, talking football on YouTube. And, of course, he's also the radio voice of the Cleveland Browns, formerly, of course, of the real Red Zone, the DirecTV Red Zone. Andrew joined us yesterday. If you missed it, go back and watch it or listen to it. It was a lot of fun discussing the Lions with Andrew. And don't forget, Andrew and the Cleveland Browns will be here in late September. September, 28th, for a home date. So we'll get a chance to see Andrew here at Ford Field coming up. Summer break. What does this mean for the Lions now that OTAs are done? There is no mini camp because the team doesn't have the time because they've got to start training camp early. Some teams will go through a mandatory mini camp. Some of the teams are going through a mandatory mini camp right now, including Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers and all of that. But the Lions will not be back with the entire squad and back in Allen Park unless guys want to go in and work on their own until we get to training camp next month. So we're getting close. But what does this break kind of mean for the team? First and foremost, and I'm going to get in a discussion specifically about Jared Goff tomorrow, but this is an opportunity for the next month for some players certainly get away and vacation and everything else. But it's also an opportunity for Johnny Morton, the Lions' new offensive coordinator, and Jared Goff to kind of put some things together and really get ready for camp and what they want those practices and what they want the preseason and what they want the joint practices with Miami and Houston to look like. I think this time off and this time for the coaches is the most important for the new offensive coordinator, Johnny Morton. We knew this, all right? The last couple of years, this offense was a well-oiled machine. It was organized. You knew what you were getting with Ben Johnson. You knew how good of an OC he was. We're going to find out how good of a head coach he is with the Bears. But how good is this offense going to be, and how much can they accomplish now with, quite honestly, some parts gone? I mean, we're talking about Frank Ragnow retiring, arguably the best center in the NFC. The guy that was calling out the signals, the guy that was the first to touch the football, made other guys accountable, first guy in the film room, last to leave, all the cliches, but it's all kind of true. Everybody that's talked about Ragnow last week at OTAs all says the same thing. Warrior, the best, unbelievable leader, unbelievable football player, and that is going to be a big loss. So how is this offense going to run with a new OC with a new center? And quite honestly, 2/5 of the offensive line from last year gone in Kevin Zeitler and now Frank Ragnow. And as we know, this team kind of has taken the identity of its offensive line. They've been nasty. They've been dirty. They've been tough. They've been mean. They've been physical. I love the way this football team, the last, 3 years, really? I mean, to go from 3 wins to 9 wins to 11 to 15 the last 3 years, 12 wins, 12 or 11, the last 3 years, the winning records. Starts up front with the offensive line. How will they scheme it? What will it look like? What will Ratledge look like at center? Now, I'm here to tell you right now, I think Tate Ratledge is going to be the starting center. I think the Lions see something in him. The way they were talking about him last week, the amount of reps they've given him, I believe he's going to be the guy. And rookie center is never easy. But look, Creed Humphrey was once a rookie. Jason Kelsey was once a rookie. Ragnow was a rookie, but he played guard. Guys have been thrown into the fire. Alex Mack years ago, was it with Cleveland, was excellent as a rookie center. There's guys that have done it before. I remember Dwight Stevenson in Miami many, many years ago as a rookie center, became an all-pro rather quickly. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing about this time away for this organization is the Morton factor in the offense. Number 2, for summer break, the Lions have got to figure out what is going on and what is the plan with Alex Anzalone. We joke about the Gaines media poster boy, the flowing locks, the blonde bombshell, but he is a captain on that defense. It is vital that under a new regime here with Kelvin Shepard, now that Aaron Glenn is in New York as head coach of the Jets, how are the Lions going to handle what their defense is going to look like? They know what Kelvin Shepard, who's been the linebackers coach the last few years, wants in this defense. He's been groomed for this position. He's going to do an excellent job. I'm excited to see what Shep has to do. Let me tell you something, Shep. But no, really, Alex Anzalone, is he coming to camp? The Lions and Dan Campbell have said they've been in contact with him. OTAs was not mandatory. It was voluntary. We told you last week about the cryptic Instagram message that was sent out. I'm going to talk about the linebackers in a second, but this is something to keep an eye on over the summer, or at least for this next month, is will the Lions try to restructure Alex Anzalone's contract, maybe give him a raise, maybe add another year to it so that they know come, let's say, July 10th or July 13th or whatever it is, when training camp starts, that he will be there and he will be a part of it. You don't want any distractions. You don't want any holdouts. This wasn't really officially a holdout because it was voluntary OTAs, but you want number 34 out there. They're going for it this season. I know the conversations about the future. I know the conversations about not being able to re-sign everybody. We've talked a lot on this show about Jameson Williams and whether or not he's going to be here past 2026. No one cares right now. What we care about right now is this season, how difficult the schedule is, how come September 7th or whatever it is, the Lions are going to be playing the Green Bay Packers in week 1. That is not going to be an easy game at 425 at Lambeau. You're going to have Aiden Hutchinson coming back for the first time since he broke his fibula and tibia. Will he be 100%? You're not going to believe McNeil. You're not going to have Malcolm Rodriguez. You're going to have guys out. They need Alex Anzalone there. You do not want to be shorthanded right out of the gate. What will they do? How will they figure that out? That, I think, is also a part of the conversations that will take place over the next month. And will the Lions be reaching out to Zadarius Smith over the next month? I don't think anything would get done until after camp, because I don't think Zadarius Smith wants to be out there during training camp or the preseason, to be honest with you. But is it on their radar? Now they've got a little bit of money to play with the Ragnow retirement, although it's not official yet, filed and all that stuff. What will the Lions do with some of that cash? And could there be another offensive lineman in the mix? We'll see. I don't know. They've got, I think, enough depth that they like. They added Tristan Colon, the former Arizona Cardinal, last week. We'll see. But I think that's kind of the approach for this team right now in terms of the summer. Dan Campbell spoke last week at the end of OTAs and brought up some names of some guys that have stepped up And he mentioned two in particular on offense that I want to talk about. We will do that coming up next, right here on a Tuesday edition of a Locked On Lions. And Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account? You wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you a full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money, but start building wealth. All right. When some of my friends started using Monarch Money, they realized just how much they were spending on food delivery, for example. All right. Now you budget smarter and you save more. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Look, players get mentioned all the time by the head coach. They are asked, and the great thing that I love about Dan Campbell and just how great of a guy he is. And by the way, congratulations to Dan Campbell, who was surprised last week and found out that he's going into the Texas A&M Hall of Fame or Football Ring of Honor, whatever it is, a alumni award for Campbell. Congratulations to him. As he talked about, he's an Aggie, played for RC Slocum, and going in as a Hall of Famer down to Texas A&M, which is really, really cool news. His family was there when the Lions surprised him with John Dorsey down in Allen Park last week. So congratulations to the coach. But one thing I love about Dan is when asked a question, he doesn't skirt the question. He answers it. So when he was asked, hey, who's had a good OTAs? Who's impressed you? And he usually lists a pretty long list of guys. And but he did not hold back last week with his praise for Jahmyr Gibbs and for Jameson Williams. And we've been hearing about, and we've seen and heard from just about everybody, the love that J-Mo has been getting from just about everybody inside that building, how hard he's worked, how he's bulked up. He's hit the weight room. He's worked really hard. And the Lions expect, and this goes back to John Morton, the OC, who also said it, the Lions expect a breakout year from Jameson Williams. You want him playing his best football because another weapon on the outside just makes this offense go. We know about the short passing game. We know about the play action passing game. We know about the run game and how good it's been with this offensive line and with David Montgomery and Gibbs. And we'll get to Jahmyr in a second. But how much better can this offense be when you've got safeties having to play deeper? You've got defensive backs on their heels because they know a guy like number one, he's now number one, remember, Jameson Williams can run by him, take the top off the defense, as they say. So Dan Campbell, once again, last week, effusing praise on his entering his fourth year wide receiver. And yes, on this show, I've been critical of J-Mo sometimes for his decision-making, mostly off the field. Didn't get in any major trouble last year with the gun issue, but still was not a good look. Any distraction. Posts on Instagram, whatever he's done. Suspensions, but there's no arguing this. He's a vital part of this offense, and damn, can he play. When he has the ball in his hands, whether it's a reverse, a bubble screen, you get up. You stand up. You're on your couch. You stand up. You're at Ford Field. You're at an opposing team stadium where Lions fans just pack those places. You get so excited when the ball's in his hands because he's that explosive. He's that fast. And I love the fact that the head coach is once again mentioning him when talking about guys who had really good offseason training activities. Mentioned before, the other name that came up was Jahmyr Gibbs. Look, everybody talks about the offense, and they mention Goff. They mention the loss of Ragnow or whatever. We talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, who, by the way, announced last week he had a little bit of a scope of his knee, a little clean out, says he's going to be fine and ready for training camp, which is good. Been rehabbing that. Sam Laporta gets love. J-Mo is somebody that is always a hot button topic. But we forget the Lions have arguably a top 3 running back in the league. And yes, Jahmyr Gibbs shares time with David Montgomery, the whole Sonic and Knuckles bit, or Thunder and Lightning, and the big back in Montgomery that carries the pile an extra 5 yards. But Jahmyr Gibbs is damn good. He is damn good. And there are some great running backs in this league. This is not what it used to be back in the day when you could pile up great running backs and talk about Barry Sanders in the same breath with Emmitt Smith because they played against each other. And there's a lot of good ones. All right. Saquon Barkley is usually at the top of the list, especially the kind of year that he had for the Super Bowl champion Eagles last year. We forget how good Jahmyr Gibbs is and how this season, number 0 changed his number 2 from 26 to 0. Just, again, another guy that when he touches the football makes plays. And I'd be interested in seeing how Morton and the offensive staff utilize Gibbs even more this year. But the one thing I will hope that the Lions do, especially now that Ragnow is out, is that they've got to get the ball out quicker. I don't think this offensive line is going to be as good as it's been, which means ball out quicker stuff. I think the days, I don't think the days are going away of the Lions' identity of pounding the rock and riding a David Montgomery early in the game and late in the game. But to me, Jahmyr Gibbs has got to get even more touches this year. And if it takes away a little bit from what Montgomery does, so be it. I love David Montgomery. Don't get me wrong. Guy went back to Iowa State and graduated college this year. Got his degree. You love that. But Jahmyr Gibbs is a special talent. And you love the fact that Dan Campbell gave him some love and said he had a great OTAs as well. He wants to keep getting better, despite making the Pro Bowl last year, being an all-pro player as a running back. The sky is the limit for Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think, why not shoot for trying to get to Saquon's level and trying to put up those type of video game numbers like Saquon Barkley did last year? Again, he shares time with David Montgomery. I know Jahmyr fantasy owners go crazy when the first series of a game, the Lions move down the field and Gibbs is even on the field. That can't happen this year. And that's despite how good David Montgomery is and the Lions passing game is, Jahmyr Gibbs has to be a part of everything. And I think he will be. All right. We mentioned last week, or maybe it was the week before, that the Lions signed Zach Cunningham, the former Denver Bronco and Houston Texan linebacker, Philadelphia Eagle, to a free agent contract. And the reasoning probably was that we know Alex Anzalone is not with a team right now, and the Lions need depth at linebacker. The Lions have a lot of linebackers. But what would they do? And what would the scenario look like if, let's say, Anzalone doesn't show up for training camp, and which is possible, and Malcolm Rodriguez, it was announced last week, still coming back from tearing his ACL in December. Dan Campbell said most likely November. So we've talked a lot about Aleem McNeil not being ready for training camp and the start of the season, and likely you won't see Aleem McNeil, who also tore his ACL, until maybe October, November, which sucks because that guy's a beast. But Malcolm Rodriguez is underrated, and Malcolm Rodriguez, entering the last year of his contract, is a solid as hell linebacker and special teamer. And so you look at the depth chart and you go, all right, middle linebacker, you know Jack Campbell's going to be there. Sam linebacker, strong side linebacker, Derek Barnes, a guy that can roam a little bit, can play the strong side, can rush the passer, all those things. On the weak side, you got Anzalone, and then you've got Malcolm Rodriguez. And both of those guys might not be there, or we know Rodriguez isn't, but you go into training camp and you've got Grant Stewart, who's more of a special teamer, another guy that has the long hair that you'll see, comes over from the Colts, from a defense, quite honestly, in Indianapolis last year that got shredded a lot. Zeke Turner is an option. I know the Lions like him a lot. I'm not sure I like him a lot, but there were games that you went, oh, man, who's number 47? He's flying around. And there were other games you're like, uh-oh, Zeke Turner got beat. Anthony Pittman and Trevor Nowaski are more strong side guys that have played. Again, Nowaski's played sometimes with his hand in the dirt as an edge rusher. I think those are more bit players. And then, like I said before, Zach Cunningham, more of a middle linebacker, but obviously can move around. But there's going to be a little bit of a competition. We talk a lot about right guard, left guard, center, and that competition. We talk about edge rusher after Marcus Davenport, Hassanin, and O'Connor and Ukwu and Agude and Pascal and Al-Qadim Muhammad, all those guys getting an opportunity. But what we're not talking about is what if, again, no Anzalone at camp and no Rodriguez because he's hurt. Who's stepping up on that other linebacker spot? Who moves in? Is, on day one, do we see Zeke Turner with the first teamers? Does a Grant Stewart move outside? Is Zach Cunningham getting opportunities? Is Nowoski doing it? Keep an eye on that. I still say, if I had to guess, that Anzalone would be there, but it's certainly an interesting proposition at linebacker right now with Rodrigo not being there until November, which absolutely sucks because for him, this is a big year for him entering his free agent year. And again, the Lions cannot pay everybody. And if Rodriguez comes back in November and plays really well and fills in and does nicely like he has in the past, he may end up going somewhere else and being a starter somewhere else based upon just the numbers that the Lions have. Jack Campbell's not going anywhere. If Anzalone re-ups, if Derek Barnes is here for a while, who knows? Maybe Anzalone isn't here. I don't know. All right. The emotional side of things with the Lions and Frank Ragnow, we will get to that coming up next as well. It is a Locked On Lions, a Tuesday edition. Lions have closed up shop, at least for the next month or so, down in Allen Park. Players can certainly utilize the facility and work out, but there will be nothing formal from the Lions now, with no mini camp until training camp starts. And once those dates are out, we'll get that stuff to all of you. And then obviously they will have some open practices and everything else. Lions are doing everything they can to upgrade the Meyer Performance Center, 222 Rodwood Drive, and everything else to make it as fun, accessible for Lions fans, and so they can come to camp. I mean, people are dying to see this football team. And I know the Lions are doing all they can to make sure that they're adding stands and everything else. So when training camp opens, the open practices, Lions fans can get there and see the fellas, which I think is going to be pretty cool. All right. So the other day, Frank Ragnow had a charity event last week and declined to talk to the media. He says he's not sure. Dave Burkett wrote, they're not sure he's even going to do a goodbye press conference. He put out his statement on Instagram. This is now the third time, by the way, that the Lions have had a player not do a press conference after he retired early. I know this is petty of me to mention, but when Barry Sanders retired, we all remember, he faxed in his letter of resignation to the Wichita Eagle, his hometown newspaper. Do you remember that bit? The old Wichita Eagle bit? Remember Barry's dad was William Sanders was being interviewed. Heck, Jocko Hughes was being interviewed. Barry never spoke. Didn't even do a press conference, did nothing. Eventually talked, but it was like months later. Calvin Johnson also put out a statement about his retirement, never held a press conference, then showed up at golf outings and stuff, but that was about it. Ragnow again was at running a charity event this last week. Dave Burkett from the Free Press and I think one other writer were there, caught up with him. He's like, guys, I don't want to talk right now. I'm still fresh. I put out my statement, all of that. So, but Dan Campbell was asked last week about Frank Ragnow and just said he loves the guy and got choked up when talking about his players or his player. And Ragnow is one of the originals, man. He was one of the guys that when Dan and Brad Holmes and the new regime arrived, he was already there. He was one of the originals and was drafted by Bob Quinn, a rare Bob Quinn home run pick. But it was credit to Maestro. But man, the emotion that Campbell showed last week is what this game is all about. It really is. There's a brotherhood that we don't understand. And I never played football. All right. I know there are people that still to this day think, how could a guy that's just some 52-year-old Jewish guy from Pepper Pike, Ohio, tell me about the Lions? He didn't play the game. You know, I get people all the time that say, you should have more ex-players on, or you should have players on the podcast because they played the game. Many, many years ago, when I worked at Sports Radio 1130 WDFN in the 90s, There was a guy named Ike Mega Man Griffin. All right. The Mega Man that did a show, and Ike's show was not very good. All right. Ike was funny, entertaining. He was a former player. And he used to always say, if you didn't play the game, you can't talk about it. Like, it was almost like he was offended that non-football players like me could even have an opinion. I never forgot that. But I don't believe in that. If you study the game, if you watch games, if you check out tape, if you talk to people, why can't you talk football? Right? Brian Windhurst at ESPN is an incredible NBA analyst and reporter. I love watching Windy on ESPN. Brian never played the game. But what I don't know and what I'll never know is what that camaraderie is like in that locker room, what these players go through, putting their bodies on the line 17, 18 weeks out of the year, sometimes more when you make the playoffs. And for Dan Campbell, days after the Ragnow retirement, to get choked up talking about the player and how much he loves him, how much he cares about him, how much he respects the decision that he made, tells you about this organization, about the leadership at the top, and the connection that the players have with the coaches. All right. There may be a decision in the Green Bay game or the Chicago game or the Baltimore game or the Cleveland game. I could go through the whole schedule that Campbell makes that a lot of us will go, what is Dan doing? Fake punt from your own 15-yard line? What are you doing? Why are you going for it there? Why are there 12 men on the field that that's coaching? What are they? All right. That's fine. But what we won't understand is the kind of love, passion, dedication, and just brotherhood that goes on with these teams, especially in a sport like this where you're putting your body on the line. Not that you're not in other sports, but one hit, your career could be over. So I just thought that Ragnow emotion, the emotion that Campbell had the other day, was really cool and goes to show just how tight-knit this organization is with their players, coaches, players alike. All right, that'll do it for us. Back again tomorrow with another edition of a Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen, everybody, and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts.